By the time the burgers were done, I was already tired. It wasn't physical. It was the familiar fatigue of arriving early, bringing the side dishes no one else remembered, setting up chairs, answering questions about work I wasn't supposed to talk about because it made people uncomfortable. I'd learned to stay useful and unremarkable. It kept the peace. My nephew had been drinking since noon. He was 26 and loud in the way men get when they think volume is confidence. Every joke landed half a beat late, but people laughed anyway. It was easier than correcting him. When he shouted it, it wasn't directed at me at first. He was telling a story, something about his apartment, his job, how everything always worked out. Then he waved a beer in my direction and said it, sharp and bright, like he'd been saving it. She's just the bitter aunt who buys everyone off. There was a ripple of giggles. Not cruel laughter. Worse, the kind that treats humiliation as harmless. I stood there with a paper plate in my hands and felt something close, quietly, without drama. Not my chest, not my throat. Something deeper, like a door I didn't realize was still open. I didn't say anything. I didn't look at him. I set the plate down, picked up my keys, and walked to my car. No one noticed right away. The drive home was almost peaceful, windows down, radio off. I replayed the line once, then let it go. What lingered wasn't the insult, it was the reframing. Years of help recast as manipulation. Support turned into purchase. Affection turned transactional by someone who had benefited most from not understanding the difference. I slept well. In the morning I made coffee and opened my laptop. Not with a plan, just with clarity. For years I'd been the quiet fix. When my nephew needed a recommendation for an internship, I made a call. When he couldn't cover a deposit, I wired money and never asked for it back. When his first job nearly fell through because of paperwork he forgot to submit, I emailed the right person and smoothed it over. No announcements. No credit. I told myself it was generosity. Family. Ease. What I saw now was scaffolding, unseen, unacknowledged, and apparently resented. I didn't retaliate. I didn't call anyone to complain. I didn't correct the story circulating about me. I did something much simpler. I stopped renewing things. The professional endorsement attached to his contract was up for review that week. I let it expire. The reference letter on file, open-ended, evergreen, was quietly withdrawn. The landlord who'd trusted him because of my guarantee didn't get a new one when the lease came up. No emails explaining why. No warnings. Everything done properly. Cleanly, with notice periods honored. Systems don't ask about feelings. They just notice absence. It took 3 weeks. First came the job, not a firing. A non-renewal. His supervisor cited changing needs. Then the apartment, rent raised beyond what he'd planned for, without the guarantee that had kept it stable. Then the program he'd been accepted into deferred him, pending documentation he suddenly didn't have. He called me once during that time. Left a voicemail. Casual, confused. Hey, weird stuff happening. You wouldn't happen to know anything about. I didn't call back. The family noticed next. Questions circulated. What was going on with him? Why was everything suddenly harder? Someone mentioned my name in passing. Someone else dismissed it. She wouldn't do that. They were right. I hadn't done anything. At a Sunday dinner I skipped, my sister finally put it together. She texted me late that night. Not angry. Careful. Did something happen between you and him? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I wrote, he said something at the BBQ that changed how I see my role. That was all. The next message came quickly, defensive. He was drunk. He didn't mean it. I typed, erased, typed again. Then sent. He meant it enough to say it. Silence followed. My nephew spiraled, but not dramatically. No headlines, no arrests. Just the slow, humiliating grind of realizing how many doors had been quietly held open for him, and how loud he'd been while walking through them. He showed up at my door one afternoon, thinner, less certain. Sober. I didn't know. He said, standing on the mat like it might disappear if he stepped off it. I didn't realize. I believed him. That didn't change anything. I never bought you off, I said. I supported you. There's a difference. He nodded, eyes down. I was joking. I know. We stood there, both waiting for something else. Or forgiveness. Or restoration. None came. I hope things work out for you, I said, and I meant it. But I'm not stepping back into that role. He swallowed. So that's it, I said. After he left, I sat on the couch and felt the weight of it settle, not relief exactly, more like alignment. The discomfort of choosing self, respect over familiarity. The family adjusted, slowly, awkwardly. I became less central, less useful. Invitations came with less urgency. I was no longer asked to fix, to fund, to smooth. I let that happen too. Sometimes I missed the version of myself who was indispensable, But indispensability, I've learned, is often just a polite word for exploitation. My nephew rebuilt his life without me. It took longer. It was messier. It was his. As for me, I became something else in the family story. Bitter, maybe. Distant. Harder to understand. I accept that. Silence, used correctly, tells the truth louder than any defense ever could.